I grew up in the South where religion played a big part in our everyday life. Some people believed that money was a gift from God, where other people felt it was a temptation from the devil. Meanwhile, I'm just over here trying to make a living because I don't want to spend the rest of my life in poverty. I'm going to go through some of the things that I heard growing up, and I'm going to share my own opinion at the end of this video. I grew up in the South around a lot of religious people. In fact, a lot of my own family members are preachers or work within the church. So I'm going to go over some of the different perspectives I heard growing up and go over some of the perspectives that I have. As a young boy, I heard a lot about giving and a lot about finances in the church. And finances in the church can be one of those touchy subjects, and we could do a whole video just about that kind of culture. But in this particular culture that I grew up, individuals were gifted with making money, or they were gifted with the ability to make money, and then they were called to give it to the church. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about some of that stuff. I understand some of the concepts, but we'll save that for a theology video later on. But one of the things that really stuck with me is how much emphasis was given on giving and raising money within the church. And so my father was one of these individuals who people kind of painted or targeted as someone who was going to give to the church and be a financier. And we would use all these fancy terms to make people feel better about what they were doing and to kind of inflate the ego a little bit. That's what it felt like. And so I don't really believe a lot of that stuff that was taught. I think there was maybe a little bit of truth mingled into it, but we're going to go into more detail about some of the stuff that I experienced and some of the things that I think are true and untrue. All right, so for a little context, so I grew up in a church that people believed that individuals were gifted or called to give, and they were also anointed or called to make money. One of the reasons that they were called to make money was to give money back to the church. So it was this kind of cycle. You make money so that you can give it, and then you go back out and make more. And it was just this ecosystem. And there was a lot of individuals who were spending their entire life just to make money so that they could give it back to the church. Now, they also had nice things and they lived a good life too, but it was very much pushed on them that this was their main calling or gifting, to make money to give to the church. So after my father passed away, I was young. I was like 14 years old. A lot of these conversations about giving money and the things that used to be spoken about him and directed towards him then began to be directed towards me. And I'm a very young guy. I'm 14 years old. And so it's hard to process and know exactly what to do with all this. Now, in a small group that feels really awesome, hey, I'm gonna make a lot of money and I'm gonna give to this cause that everyone is passionate about and believes in. And it really messes with the psyche of a young man. And I won't go into too much of that. We should probably do that in another video, maybe with a counselor or something. But that is the atmosphere that I grew up in. I have found that I'm a very generous person, whether it be to a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant that I feel like maybe is just having a hard day, or maybe it's a friend, or maybe it's just someone that I casually know who's starting a family and resources aren't quite as prevalent, and so they just need some extra help. And a lot of times we'll do that anonymously. Sometimes we'll do it with them knowing who gave it to them. And we just like to be generous with our time, with our resources. Ultimately, I just want to help people, and that's part of the reason we make these videos. We're not making any money on these videos. In fact, we're spending a lot of money to produce these videos and get them out, but I'm hoping that it is a good resource for people that are in business or have dyslexia or just trying to get through life. That is some context on how I grew up and some of the environments that I was around. Now, my thoughts on money is that it's one of the most important things, because obviously money can't buy happiness, and you hear that all the time, but money can buy a lot of things. And it can buy you time, it can buy you resources, and it's a great tool to be able to utilize in hard times. Life is difficult no matter what, but it's even more difficult when you're poor. Example, if you need a medical procedure and you have a lot of money, you're gonna be able to get the absolute best care possible. If you're looking to get in shape and you're having a hard time doing that, you can hire a personal trainer that will get you in the best shape of your life. Although you could get in shape on your own, it's much easier if you have an expert working alongside of you. So money is a hack. It's a way to get things done quicker because you can buy time back rather than having to learn everything yourself. You can pay for expertise to come in and help you. Adam here. We don't ask for any money, but if you want to help us out and support our mission, please subscribe and share with a friend. So that's some of my thoughts on money. Now I want to go over some of the different perspectives and some of my thoughts on how people view money within religious organizations. So if you didn't grow up in church, you might find some of this a little bizarre. Maybe you've read stories or listened to podcasts about it. Let's break this down. Religious organizations are very similar to businesses. They have overhead, they have power, they have rent, they have expenses that they have to cover. Although all businesses are a little different, so religious organizations or nonprofits are going to be a little different than a for-profit, but my service-based business as a home painter is going to be different than someone who has an e-commerce business. So every business has unique aspects to them, but almost all businesses, and I would even say all businesses, have very similar underlying things that are at the core of those businesses. Here's some of the negative things. Anytime there's a large amount of money involved, there's potential for corruption or misuse of funds. And I've been a part of organizations that have not done well, that have overspent, who have been wasteful, who have used the money for personal gain. But I've also been around organizations that have used it to help the community and do really awesome things. If you want to find people that are using the resources poorly, there's tons of examples of that. But there's also really good examples of people using it for good things. I don't want to spend a bunch of time going over a bunch of negative things. Again, a lot of those things are obvious. If you look for it, you'll find it. But let's go over some different things. If you spend a lot of time looking for it, you will find it. Here are some things that I've learned through my experiences. I'm not the most successful, but I have experienced some success. But here are some examples of things that I have learned. There's this phrase that I've heard a bunch: God will provide. And although I do believe that God will provide in certain situations, I do believe that it is up to us to go out and do the hard work. Most of the time when I hear that, it's people that are trying to accomplish something that they're not qualified for, but they're stepping out in faith to do that. But really what they should do is go get educated, or they should go learn or get a bunch of reps in. It would be like me trying to be an expert guitar player when I'm not willing to put in the time or energy to become great at that craft. If I want to be great at something, I have to get a lot of reps in. I have to do that thing over and over again. And so the idea that I'm just gonna sit back and wait and allow someone else to take responsibility of that growth, and I'm just gonna be standing here doing nothing, I think is a recipe for failure. And if you really wanna be successful, you need to take ownership of it and press hard. Another phrase that I hear a lot: I will have more money if God wants me to. This removes responsibility from the individual and puts it on something else or someone else. And again, I don't like these types of phrases that remove personal responsibility from us, the individual who is pursuing the thing. And so if you want more money, if you desire to do things with money, you're going to have to learn a skill, and you're going to have to do really hard things. Again, talking to the business space, they'll be like, what the heck are we even talking about? Of course. And unfortunately, there's a whole segment of people who kind of have some twisted views on this. There's a whole segment of society within the Christian community that has an unhealthy view on this. And if you want to be successful and you want to have resources to do things to promote your causes and the things that you believe in, it's going to require an extraordinary amount of work to be able to go out and build those resources or create those resources, and you can't just sit back waiting for them. So personally, my goal is to make as much money as possible to achieve the dreams that I have and the goals that I have. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm constantly in pursuit of money, because I may not need $1 billion to do the things that I want. I may only need a couple million. And so you look at the things that you want to accomplish and you build a system around those, or a process to create those resources so that you can do the things that you want to do. After my brother passed away a couple years ago, one of the things that I could have done to help my brother was contingent on the resources that I had. And there was opportunities to get my brother more help that I wasn't able to because I had a lack of resources. Money cannot prevent heartbreak or difficult times. But what it does is it gives you options in those difficult times to overcome them quicker or help avoid them. So what have we learned about money today? Regardless if you believe it's from heaven or down below, it's just a tool to help us do the things that we want to do. For me, money is not about happiness. It's about options. It's about opportunity. So the next time someone tells you money is evil, just smile and nod and ask them, have they checked their bank account lately? Maybe God's got a direct deposit coming to them.